This is Paul Colligan, and in this video I want to show you 7 reasons that you might want to think about an app for your podcast. These aren't the traditional things that you think of when you think for an app for your podcast, and I wanted to go over them for you because who knows, maybe this is a direction you want to go. So I have 2 apps now for my podcast. I've got the TPR app, which is the app for the podcast report. This is the app that Libsyn does for people who are on the $20 or higher plan. It's a great app. I recommend it highly. In addition to that, I also have the How to Podcast app. And the How to Podcast app is both a product that works with my How to Podcast book, but it's also a standalone, and it does do promotion of the Podcast Report podcast, which I'll show you in a second. So let's chat about the 7 reasons. Reason number 1, smartphone and or tablet real estate. As you can see here, I've got the Podcasts app with all the podcasts associated with it, and you don't get a lot there. You just get anything that's been recorded, and it's a bit of a mess. Whereas, right there on the screen, we've got these different apps. This kind of real estate is valuable. Of course, if you do push notifications to new episodes and that type of thing, even more so. The next reason you want to think about getting an app for your podcast is just the positioning of having an app for your podcast. As podcasts become more and more popular, more and more prevalent, people will begin to consume in different ways. And let's face it, a podcast that has an app is, it believes like it's taking things more seriously than a podcast that does not. Letting people listen through whatever podcast app they happen to be using being the Apple one or whatever, or letting them download the app just gives them more ways to listen to you, more ways to consume your content, and does great positioning. The next issue for having an app for your podcast, and this gets misunderstood a lot, is the idea of search. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to search, and I'm going to type in podcast monetization. I want you to notice something here. So I type in podcast monetization. A couple things pop up here. Number 1, we've got How to Podcast app, the podcast monetization, just the tab for that area of the app pops up, which is very, very cool. But what's also interesting is the actual article that I have inside of the app of 3 models of podcast monetization pops up as well. My content pops up directly inside of iOS search, and that is pretty fabulous and something you want to think about because as people are looking for things, that's going to pop up. As this gets deeper and more utilized, hopefully we'll see some results inside of Safari search as well, but search is definitely there. The 4th issue is rewarding consumption. As you can see here on the Podcast Report app, I actually finished the Podcast Report Season 1 last week with episode number 75. As you can see here, final episode 75. And most people who are downloading the podcast have listened to episode 75 and are waiting until next year. But what I did that was interesting was I put in a bonus for anybody who downloads the app. The number 1 question I get in terms of support and on Twitter is about the idea of the 4 M's of podcasting. So I put together a podcasting PDF about the M4 approach to podcasting. It's available only to people who download the app. And so by rewarding consumption, I will give people something if they actually go through the process of downloading the app. This is incredibly powerful. The next thing that we have is the collecting of emails, and this needs to be understood and remembered and utilized by everyone. I'm going to show you a quick example here. Inside of the How to Podcast app, we've got the Big Broadcast 2015, and when you click on here, you've got the ability to sign up. When someone signs up here, they've got the form to get all the information about the Big Broadcast and to get everything if they simply, claim their spot and reserve their seat and give their email address. It's nice, it's simple, it's easy, and it's very, very, very powerful. Something you definitely want to do inside of an app. The next thing you want to do inside of an app is push notifications. Now, if you can get your audience to actually sign up for push notifications with your app, you're able to push things to them much stronger than email. It's not as in your face as text messaging, and it becomes a really, really, really powerful option that you want to consider. Now, I've just in this video set it to do a push notification, and in a second here, the push notification is going to pop up. Let's just wait for that to happen. Look at that. The How to Podcast app says news update. You can catch the Big Broadcast 2015 live right here in the app. That came as a notification, but if we click here, you can see that happens. Now, not only do we have push notifications, but we also have, and this is number 7, deep links. I can click on this notification here and be taken right to the big broadcast page inside of the How to Podcast app. This kind of combination of push notification and deep links is incredible, incredibly powerful, and it stays there for a while. And I got rid of all my notifications for the sake of this presentation, but a lot of people keep them, and what they do is they go back to them, and when it becomes time for the event, you're good to go. Also realize that for everybody who's downloaded the app and who has set themselves up for notifications, I can send them a notification just a few minutes before the big broadcast happens, and they will be able to watch directly. So the big 7 again were smartphone, tablet, real estate, which is really viable. Positioning, showing people that you are a little bit more serious about what it is that you're doing. Being found in search, rewarding consumption from your consumers, collecting emails from your audience, doing push notification, and doing deep links. All of these things are incredibly powerful. Couple of ideas for you on a bonus. Why do just one? What I'm experimenting with and what I'm trying and what I'll be reporting on soon is the idea of 2 podcasts. One that is the Podcast app directly, as you can see here for the podcast report, but also one that focuses in the industry that the podcast is about. Not everybody who's interested in how to podcast will be downloading the podcast report app, but these 2 things in conjunction with each other can really help me nail the marketplace and nail the industry, which is exactly what I'm trying to do. The final thing I'd like to chat about is the actual big broadcast itself. It is going to be on December 16th at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. If you downloaded the app, that is a great way to watch it live or watch the replay of it. If you are in a situation where you don't have access to the app, you can head out to paulcolligan.com/big. We'll keep the recording for this up after the event, but it's always fun to attend these things live. I'll be going more in depth in terms of what I'm doing with my podcast apps, as well as how I'm podcasting using nothing but my phone, as well as some of the monetization options that we're going for and other things. It will be my big event of the year. Can't wait to have you watch it. Live is always more fun. I do Q&A, and we have a good time, and would love to see you there. So that's paulcolligan.com/big, or you can get it right here from the app. But there we go. 7 things to think about for a podcast app. And heck, consider 2 if you're going for total market domination. That's it. Chat with you on the next video. Bye.